Hey guys, welcome back. Last time we left off, we were looking at the bones in our forearm, our radius, and our ulna, and I told you we'd stop before we got to wrist bones because there was some craziness there, and we have made it. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up the rest of the bones in our wrists and our fingers, and we'll call it a day. So here's what you have. Your carpal bones are 8 bones. The carpal bones make up your wrist, and we generally describe them as 2 rows. Even though it's not really a perfect row, it kind of goes 1, 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, 4. They articulate with the radius and the ulna, of course. There's fibrocartilage that hold them in. But what we want to know is we want to learn these bones. And so here's the way I think about it. This is the front view of your left hand, okay? So you put your left hand out in front of you, and you lay it palm side up, anatomical position, okay? This is what you'd be seeing. 1, this is the bone that's going to lead to your thumb, and then 5 is going to be the bone that's going to lead to your pinky, all right? So since your fingers point towards the ground in anatomical position, I like to start at the thumb side, the top of my wrist, and say, so long, top parts, here comes the thumb. That's the little acronym that I use for it. So here's the bones. First one is called scaphoid. It is the first lateral and proximal bone, and apparently somebody thought it was shaped like a boat. I think it might be safe to say you could say all of these bones are more or less shaped like a potato. So I'm not really that excited about the idea of saying anything shaped like a boat or a moon or a hook used by a butcher for hamate. They're all just kind of look like potatoes, but there you have it. Scaphoid, that bone right there. Next one to it, heading towards the lateral side, is lunate. Okay, so lunate is the second lateral bone, and I guess it looks like a half moon, but I'll let you be the judge there. Then we get to triquetrum. Triquetrum, they say looks like a triangle, which I could buy, I guess. Sure, triquetrum. 3 sides, right? All right, then we get to pisiform. Pisiform means formed like a pea. So maybe they didn't think potato, they thought pea. It's also a very small bone, and it is going to be anterior to the triquetrum, not lateral. And so here they kind of make it look like it's sticking out to the side, but really that pisiform sits right here on top of triquetrum. So you can look at pretty much any picture of a wrist and figure it out if you're looking at the front and the back, because if you can see pisiform right here, that's the front of the wrist, that's anterior. If you can just barely see the edge of pisiform, that's the back of the wrist or posterior. So scaphoid, lunate, triquetrum, pisiform. So long, top parts. Now we work down by our metacarpals, and we have to go, here comes the thumb, and end at the thumb. So here comes the thumb. We start with hamate. Hamate has a big hook in it, so they named it hamate. Capitate is the largest bone in the wrist. So, you know, capital, it's a big important city. Capitate, it's a big important bone. Trapezoid is this bone right here by our second metacarpal. And then we end with trapezium, which is right here. And this is the lateral distal bone of the wrist. And so when I look at this one, the only bad thing about so long top parts, here comes the thumb, is it involves 3 letters T. 3 T letters, rather. And that makes it kind of tricky, because when you're going through it, it's like, well, I know it's so long top parts, here comes the thumb, but when I get to 1 T, is it trapezoid or trapezium or triquetrum? What's really the deal here? And so what I do is I try to think trapezium reminds me of trapeze, and I think somebody who's on like a flying trapeze at a circus or something like that, they have to be really flexible and mobile. And if you take a look at this left hand that you have out in front of you, palm facing up, when it comes to your metacarpal bones, most of them you can really only make a fist. That's about it. But with the thumb, you can actually rotate and extend and roll that thumb around in a circle. And so this bone that leads out to your thumb is actually really flexible, and it can kind of move all over the place. So that helps me remember that this one's trapezium, because a trapeze, person has to be really flexible and mobile, and that's exactly what this metacarpal is. So if it helps you, great. If not, I'm sorry. Trapezoid, I don't know, if you're good at geometry, maybe this potato looks like a trapezoid to you. I don't know, I guess it looks more like a trapezoid than it does a triangle. I don't know. So there you have it. There's your bones of the wrist. So long top parts, here comes the thumb. Or if you would rather develop your own little mnemonic device, you are certainly welcome to do that. So let's jump down to some easier stuff. This is really cool. Here we have, let's take a look at this. This is a hand, okay? This is a PU, pinky, ulna, a radius, and I can barely see that pisiform, which leads me to believe that this is the posterior view of a left hand. That's what I think I'm looking at right now. The back of a left hand. So if you lay your left hand on the desk in front of you, you've got what you're looking at in this diagram, okay? So you can still use the same thing. You just have to start at the thumb and say, so long top parts, here comes the thumb. All right, it still works the same way. Now, when we start to label metacarpals and phalanges, this is nice because they are numbered. Your thumb is number 1. Your pinky is number 5. And so this is really easy. You say first metacarpal, second metacarpal, third metacarpal, fourth metacarpal, fifth metacarpal, and there's about the 5 easiest bones you're probably ever going to learn. You're done. It really is that easy. So that's kind of a nice deal. Now, for your pinky through your pointer, they get really nice names, okay? The proximal phalanx, which is singular for phalanges, proximal phalanx of the 5th digit is the bone closest to attachment for the part of your pinky that you can actually bend and move. If you make a fist, what gives you the mostly straight, rigid form of that fist on the top of your hand are these guys right here. The parts that actually bend down are the phalanges, okay? So if you straighten all your fingers out, that pinky finger starts with 3 bones. The proximal phalanx, or closest to the point of attachment, the middle phalanx, or, the middle, and the distal phalanx, or the farthest from the point of attachment. And then it goes the same way here. Proximal, middle, distal, proximal, middle, distal, proximal, middle, distal. Very easy. So if I gave you a quiz and I'm like, hey, what's this bone right here? And it was just a blank, hand and an arrow. And you would look at that and you'd say, okay, this is metacarpal, proximal, middle, distal. That is the middle phalanx of the 1, 2, 3, the middle phalanx of the 3rd digit. And you'd be right. And that's all it takes. It really is that easy. So you could say the proximal phalanx of the 2nd digit or the distal phalanx of the 4th digit. It's not that hard. It's kind of nice. So we get to your thumb, and this little guy gets kind of weird. We have 1, 2, 3 bones. We get to your thumb, there's only 2. It only has 1 joint right here. And so we get a proximal phalanx and we get a distal phalanx. There is no middle when it comes to the thumb. All right? So they name a couple joints on this diagram, but you're not responsible for those at this point in your life just yet. All right? So each bone has a head, body, and a base, but you don't need to know that just yet. Really, the head is further away. The base is down towards the point of attachment. The body's in the middle, but that's not on your terms to know list, so don't lose any sleep over that. And there are a whole variety of joints in here, but we're not going to name those either. So your phalanges, 14 bones, 2 or 3 bones in each digit, depends on which one you have. The thumb has 2, and they're classified as proximal, middle, and distal. Got it. Head, body, base. Got it. Also, we don't need to know it. They're numbered with the thumb first. Got it. Phalanges. Got it. Got it. Got it. Got it. Okay, cool. So here's your review. This is the pectoral girdle, and so you should have worksheets that look just like this. If they don't, practice on this. Name the bone, name the end, name the end, name the process, name the process, name the fossa, name this bone, this structure, this structure, this structure, this structure, I'll certainly quiz you over these in class using the whiteboard if you'd like. That's no problem at all. Same thing for radius and ulna. Take a look at it, figure out if it's a right or left, figure out if you're seeing the front or the rear view of it, and then you can start to name processes, notches, styloid processes, etc., tuberosities, and those sorts of things. And then here we have the humerus. Take a look at it, figure out which way is front, which way is back, what's the anterior view, what's the posterior view. Once you figure that out, it should be pretty easy to figure if it's a left or a right. And you start naming everything off your terms to know list. And then here's the hand. It's not all that terribly tricky, but you got to take a quick look at it and say, okay, I got the same hand. One's facing up at me, one's a posterior view, which is which. So let's find a thumb. Let's start there, and let's say, so long top parts, or thumb side, so long top parts. Now here it really looks like that little bone is behind this guy. And here it looks like that little bone is sitting on top of this guy. So this is the anterior view. So long top parts, here comes the thumb. And you're done. You did it. You figured it out. This is the front view. This is the back view. All right, and you can kind of go from there. So we will practice those in class. You can practice those with the links to the McGraw-Hill Labeling Drag and Drop website that I sent you on Edmodo, and you're going to be in pretty good shape. Another one, you'll have a worksheet with this one here. Name the processes, name the spine, name the bone, name the fossa, and you'll want to know that. So we will stop there, and we will do the pelvic girdle next time. Whole different set of bones, whole different set of terms, but you've got enough to practice. So please do practice these arm bones and the scapula and the clavicle and all of the structures that are on your terms to know list. And we'll call it good for now. So thank you for your time.